Want to make your own super extension cord? Well, stay tuned and we'll show you how we did one. Pretty cool trick. We'll have some background noise in the video, folks. I'm trying to eliminate that as much as I can. However, it's about 104 degrees. We've got to have a fan pretty close to us just to stay cool here in Texas. So bear with us. We'll try to get you through the video, but you will hear the background noise of the fan. Alright, some of the first things you need to do is gather the materials or supplies that you're going to use to make this extension cord. We gathered the following: the cover plate, which is stainless steel. You can use plastic, whatever you think you might have, or whatever suits your needs. Today in this video, we are going to use the stainless. You can use the plastic covers like these right here. Let me get you one of those, or anything similar. I went with the metal strictly because if you drop it, step on it, you won't probably break it as easily. Get your box. I found this box at the Home Depot. It's a gang box and it has a lot of different holes in it. Now we will have to drill out the center of this one to run the wire back through there. And we've got this fitting here that holds the actual cable inside. Once you tighten this down, it'll tighten it up where the cable cannot pull back out very easily. We'll show you that once we get to that point. Pretty simple box. Of course, your two plug receptacles, your extension cord, and then you'll need a couple of pieces of this wire here to jump from switch to switch inside the box. This is a 12 gauge. I'll just strip it down and take my wires out of there that I need when we get to that point. And then of course these are the two screws to hold the cover plate back in place. You'll need a few hand tools. I'm going to use a pair of pliers, a small flat tip screwdriver, a utility knife with a sharp blade. If you have one, the sharper the better. Phillips head screwdriver, and my old fishing pliers here that got all rusty out there in the salt water. Old pair of those old from the Home Depot Cobalts. They all got all rusted up, but they still work fine. And some people may want to use a drill with the Phillips head in it to tighten the screws faster. Alright, let's continue with the drill. Okay, next step. We're going to go ahead and drill this out. We got our drill. We found a drill bit here. It doesn't make any difference what size, as long as it's big enough to get the step bit in the hole to open it up. Just center it as close as you can to the center of this plug that's in here, and just drill it out just like so. Take the drill bit out, put your step bit back in your drill, got it good and tight, run it back inside the hole. Okay, you'll need to make sure that when you're drilling that you stay away from the threads on the side. The step bit just barely fit inside that hole, but it did the job that we needed. And we'll clean this off on the inside. Then this piece here will thread into the box itself. It's got a rubber gasket there, an O-ring. See some pliers out here. Snug it up. It doesn't have to be super tight, just enough to seal that O-ring. Kind of squeezed it out a little bit, but we can always put a little bit of silicone or something around that if we feel like it's going to be close to water. So that should be fine like it is. Now then, you unscrew this on the end of it and get your extension cord. And for the purpose of the video, this is what I started with on one end, and this is what I've done on the other end. I've already trimmed the outer casing off of the extension cord that I'm going to be using. If you're not sure how to do that, I'll just kind of run you through it real quick. I normally put a cut around it, the distance I need, real lightly. Don't press real hard. You don't want to cut into the interior insulation of the interior wires. You just want to cut the insulation off of the outer three, and you'll see two pieces of paper in the inside as well. You'll cut those off, then you'll have the three cords as you see in this section video. It's important not to cut into the insulation here. If you do, there's always a chance of shock once you're powering the unit up if you've got your hands in that area. So at this point, we'll run the cord through there, run it back here, run it back inside through the hole, and we'll squeeze this little crimp down there. I'm going to put this over that, and then we will go ahead and proceed with tightening the nut. That little nut that you saw in the middle here, the more you tighten this, the more it crimps down on this cable itself. You see here now, I can't pull it out. It's pretty much got that cable locked in place. The tighter you tighten this nut clockwise, the tighter it crimps around this cable. So now you've got your live, your neutral, and your ground wire inside the box. Let's take it to the next step. Earlier in the video, when I was telling you what tools we need, I failed to mention that you would need a good pair of wire strippers. And of course, I've got a pair of old Klein tools that I've had for, I'd say 8-9 years, and they've been fantastic to me. Now you're going to take and strip each one of these wires. Hopefully you can see that. Back about so. It doesn't have to be exact, you can always trim them off. See how easy that is with these Klein tools? Take it, cut it around the wire just like so, move it around a little bit. Voila, just like magic. Boy, that stuff comes right off of there. Now you want to twist the ends of these wires the best you can to try to form one unique wire. Now this is stranded wire, so it's not going to look as pretty as a solid core copper wire, but it'll do the job that we need it to do on this extension cord or super extension cord or whatever you would like to call it. Alright, you got your live wire, your neutral, and your ground wire. Now if we was over at the breaker box and you had a 30 amp breaker, 20 amp breaker, or whatever you have that's on the other end of this line, this wire would be going to the breaker, this wire would be going to the neutral bar, and this wire would be going to the ground. Let me get a breaker and I'll try to explain that a little bit more. Okay, I found a breaker, but it's not the one I wanted to show you. This is a double pole, and this is a 20 amp double pole breaker. Now, on this circuit, you're only going to have one breaker, single throw. Now, also, let's assume that this breaker is split right down the middle, and it's divided into two separate breakers. This one's actually used for 220 volts, 240. This cannot be used, well, I said cannot, it can be used on a 110 circuit if you're going to use one leg, but it's not safe to do so. So I prefer not to do it, and I would advise you highly not to do it. So let's assume again that this is a single pole breaker, split right down the middle. You got a lever over here and you got a lever over here. Let's kind of wipe out this part of it. That black wire would be the wire that goes into right here on the breaker. Then this will go to the neutral bar in the breaker box, and this will go to the ground bar in the breaker box. Okay, let's proceed with wiring in the actual plugs into the box and taking the wires, connecting them to the electrical plugs, receptacles. When you're looking at these plugs, this is a standard wall plug, wall receptacle. I'll get corrected out there, I guarantee you. This is YouTube, and there's a lot of literally correct people out there that want exactly the way it should be. I'm old school, I'm 60-something years old, so I'll try to explain this the way I understand it. The brass is always going to be the live wire. The live wire in this situation is the black. On the other side, you're going to see silver screws. Silver goes to neutral, the white wire. And of course, pretty self-explanatory. The green is the ground, and this is the green on the bottom of the plug. Now we'll connect these two switches together, and then we'll connect this one to one of these plugs, which will carry juice back and forth, or transfer from one side to the other. Okay, I've taken my utility knife and I've scored right along this section right here, trying to stay in the center of it where the ground wire is, where there's no insulation to be cut away. And I'll peel this wire out of here just like so. Now we've got 3 separate strands of wire. We're going to be using these in the next portion of the video. So we'll cut them down to the size we need them once we get there. Let me also mention something about the plugs that I forgot to tell you earlier. Outside of these 3 screws that I mentioned, in the back of some of these plugs, you've got an area back here, right there, right there, right there, and there, that is designed, if you want to jumper 2 plugs, you just insert this wire in there, push it in there, and it locks itself in. It will not come back out. But I have found, after using it several times, that the connection is not as heavy as I'd like it to be, and it just does not seem to suit my needs. So I will go ahead and if I have the opportunity, every chance, I will run an actual wire around all of these. You know, the live, the neutral, and the ground. You can tie the ground together. It doesn't have to be two wires on there, but I try to run off the screws. I just don't trust the back of these. Okay, we're back again. Now, when making these connections to your plug, your receptacle, whatever you want to call it, I call them a plug. A plug is actually the male part that goes in. These are receptacles, but you'll hear me reference plug a lot of times in the video, and I apologize for that. But whenever you're making that connection, you always want to, after you strip the wire back, like you see I've done here, put you a hook in it, just like so, and actually try to get that back a little bit further, that insulation back a little bit further. But I'm not going to spend the time to clean that up right now. But you really want that bolt, that screw, to make as much contact as it can on the open, uninsulated part of that. Also, when you're putting them on the plug itself, put them in like so, and come in from this side. Since you're going to be turning this screw clockwise, as so, you want it to pull this area in, and the little piggy wiggy end over here, you want it locked down inside. If you turn it the other way, chances are you're going to squeeze it out. Just a little tip. Now this wire doesn't go here. I just put it there for the purpose of the video. So I need to make sure I take this off, because that is the neutral wire. Remember I said in the video earlier, black is live, goes to brass. Silver or chrome is neutral, goes to white. Green is ground. Now I might have got a little bit ahead of you on the wiring part of it, but I'll show you exactly what I did. I didn't want you to hear my boring voice any more than you had to. Keep in mind, like I said, I'm just an old timer, a disabled old veteran, but we still trying to give you some information out there to try to help you. Okay, what we got going on now is we're going to run these 3 wires to the top of this plug, this side here, this side here. Black's going to go here, white's going to go there. Remember, white, chrome, black, brass, green, ground. The other green terminal is going to go right there. Or green wire going to green terminal, green screw. We've already jumpered both of these plugs together, so they'll be one. How we've done that is we've taken a black wire, ran from here all the way over to here. On the top, of the brass screw right here. So that's carrying that current from this plug over to this plug, which will be energizing both. We've done the same thing this side. The white silver screw, jumping it over to the same thing on the other plug, silver. You see I've got these two feeding these two, which return will power up the bottom as well. The incoming power from the breaker is going to be coming over here to this side. So it'll bring power to here, back over to here, everywhere. It'll be a live plug all the way across. Pretty simple. Next step, we need to wire her back up. Now if you were, say, wiring up 2 or 3 or 4 of these plugs on a circuit in the home, on a new build or in a garage or wherever you might be working, you're going to have the power coming in here like I said earlier on this one. But you're going to have these 2 screws that are still live. Alright, not going to be used on this plug. That's where you'd be tying in the wire that would be coming from the next actual plug that's in the wall. It will come in and you'll tie it to this one, and then you'll also tie the ground into there. So if you're curious as to how they wire them, each breaker, it's just jumper from this receptacle to the next one. Of course, whoever's building the home will have the wires coming through, and it'll just be dropped into the box, which will be not this box, but it'll be something like this here, similar to this. They'll have knockouts in them. Wire be coming in, wire be going out, and it goes from one plug to the next plug. You'll take the green wire coming in, go off either one of the ground screws that you have here in the box or in the plugs. You can come off of this side if you want to. You can come off this side, it makes no difference. They're jumper from green to green. This green's going back to your power coming into the box, which it should be grounded. This ground should be tracing back to that one. Okay, we've got these 3 wires wired up now. We've got the black wire coming in here, top of the plug. We've got the white wire coming in down there, which is hard to see. And we got the ground wire, of course, you saw that earlier, grounded on this side. Next, you'll put the plugs back in the box. You may have to move your wires around a little bit inside there to get them exactly where you need them, so that the actual plug receptacles will go all the way down. I like to start my screws like that by hand. It's going to be a lot easier if you go ahead and do this one first. And then you can kind of squeeze that other box back over. Let me get a drill here for this. I had to do some coaching here to get this thing back in here. Got these screws started, now let's screw it down. Well, you don't want to make them really, really tight. And push that plug down there the best you can. Them wires may be trying to keep it from setting flush in there. So like I said, you may have to put a little pressure on the wire to get it to go down in there as far as it needs to go. I kind of worked it around as I was putting it back in, and it did help it quite a bit. Now you need to really check, make sure your cover is going to fit on there before you tighten the plugs down. See, this one's got to be moved over a little bit. And it slides in this bracket. If you loosen these screws up, it will slide over, see? But it'll try to come back as well. I have seen over the years a lot of electrical companies just leave that screw just semi-loose and just put that cover right over the top of them to make it easier and faster for them. Well, see, this one needs to be moved over a little bit this way now, like so. The wires are pretty tough, so you may have to hold them by hand when you're tightening those down, or either get back in there and move that collapse that wiring a little bit, coax it to stay in where you want it. I can tell you now that's not going to work. But it's closer. This one needs to come in, this one needs to go over. Not perfect yet. But we'll get it. Well, I think we got it just about as close as we're going to get it. That one could have been moved over a little bit more, but I think we'll do all right. Now then we'll put these other two screws in there to hold that down. I bet you notice that there's not as much noise in the background right now. I did turn the fan off, and you don't want to see my shirt. I grant you. It looks like I took a shower without a bar of soap. Now then, you're going to need this little flat tip screwdriver. I should have actually went back in there and cut that wire a little shorter on them plug crossovers, and that way I wouldn't be facing this issue. But you know what, guys, doesn't look too bad. Pretty much a sealed box. Now if I really wanted to make it completely sealed, I'd have put some silicone around the edges here, and it would be semi-waterproof, I guess you could say. You wouldn't be able to dump it in a bucket of water, but it would be pretty much waterproof. Hanging around, throw it around. Great asset to have in the shop. I get tired when I'm doing some cutting and sawing, and I got two or three things to plug in. I got one jumper cord I have to get down, up and down, up and down, up and down to change it out. This will resolve a lot of my problems, and if I really wanted to get crazy with it, I could come over here, put an extension, put another box up here, and then I would have 8 plugs in one. But you can only run as much as the actual breaker that you got it plugged into is capable of handling. In this case, it'd be 20 amps. So you're not going to run a power saw, a table saw, a blow gun, a heat gun, what do you call it, all at one time. It's just not. You're going to start tripping breakers. But guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Next part we're going to do, well, let me finish. Let's test it out, right? We haven't done that yet. You can put a plug on this other end. Once you put that plug on there, then we can go testing it out. Let's get to that next. Well, I just came back from the hardware store, and of course this is all they had. Well, these little cheap Taiwanese, Japanese, I'm not sure what kind of plug it is, but I guess for purposes of video, it's good enough to do the testing with it. But, wow, not much of a plug. Anyhow, I'm going to take these 3 screws out. I'm going to pull that booger right out of there. Not sure why it won't come out. Maybe there's a screw still holding it. And I'm going to take these 2 loose. Oop, they weren't one of them screws. Take these two screws loose where I can get that cord in there tied into that. Kind of just fell out of there, didn't it? Boy, that's a really good one there. Now, of course, when you're wiring up the plug, that's your ground. I know from taking a meter and checking this cord, which one is which over here. Normally on most American plugs that are really quality, you're going to see one of these is going to be smaller than the other one. And normally the smaller one, in most cases, maybe not at all, but in most cases, the smaller side is going to be where the black wire is going to go, or the live wire. The bigger side is going to be neutral, and this would be ground. I wish I had a plug to show you to prove my point, but keep in mind that's something you may want to look at. Now let me start wiring this up and putting it together. I've sliced my cable open. Got these 3 wires where I can work on those. I can take the insulation off of those. I've slid this on here first. Make sure you've got this rubber piece on here first, and with this plug it has to go on there so it squeezes down, keeps this wire from pulling back out. Now we'll wire this up. Stripping the wires is really pretty easy with these Klein tools. You find the appropriate size that you're working on. There's numbers on there if you haven't used any of them, but after you've done it for a while you kind of get the feel of what you're working with. You just kind of clamp it down there, unclamp it, move it around a little bit, twist it, pull it right off. Pretty simple. Nice clean cut. Something else you can do is take a plug, and if your home is wired properly, you can take this plug, look at it. You can take this plug, plug it in there, and go back and check your wires. Match them up to this. Once I pull this back out of here, you're going to see that that live wire, which is brass, goes to this side of the plug. Vice versa. Silver's on this side, it's going to be back on this side. So we know now that the black goes to this side in this setup we're working on. I've already hooked this wire up here, and I've already hooked the ground wire up. To do that, it's pretty self-explanatory. You loosen this screw right here. It'll open up that little slot right there. Hopefully I'm not blocking it. Then you just stick the wires down in between those two, like so. Try to get it a little cleaner than I did. I had a wire hanging out there. And then you tighten this back down. Pull them, make sure you got them right. Then of course your next step is slide all this back into place, tighten it down, and then your plug will be ready. Something else I'll mention, and I didn't in the first part of the video or when I was getting to the section of wiring this plug up. Try to cut as little as possible of the wiring, because remember, you've got to get all that inside this area right here. And if you got a lot of excess wiring out here, you're going to have a hard time putting this piece back into this housing on this type of junky plug. And cut your insulation only as back as far as you see where my finger is right there, so that when you put this little rubber seal back in there, it'll be able to squeeze that insulation down. I actually went just a little bit too far, but it'll still work fine. So try to remember those things. Don't cut the insulation back any further than you have to, and keep your wires as short as possible for the inside. Now this is going to slide right back into place here, just like you see up there. And then we're going to come right back over here and tighten this back down. And hopefully there's enough insulation on there, which it should be, to keep that wire from pulling out if somebody yanks on the cord instead of the plug itself when they're removing it to disconnect it. There you go, real nice and tight. So now we got a plug. Now we just need to see if the actual super extension cord works properly. I've got a power strip over here that's already powered up, so we're going to use it to test the super plug. Always make sure that this unit is grounded. Just like I showed you in the earlier part of the video, green is ground, ground goes back to your original power supply. If it's not grounded, you always risk the possibility of electrical shock. So make sure that it is grounded, and it is in this case. We've got this plugged in. This is the box, and it's plugged into this. And let's see. That side is fine. Go back over to the bottom left-hand side. That side is fine. Now let's check the voltage. Well, we got our old trusty Klein Tools tester here. Let's see what we get on the reading of the voltage. I'm going to try to get that where you can see it. I've had this old Klein tool tester for a long time. It's a very good product. I would highly recommend anything that Klein sells. I've got a lot of different tools made by Klein, and it's really hard to beat them. They're not that expensive, not more expensive than, well, they're less expensive than any kind of snap-on gadget. But you'll see them all over YouTube. A lot of people use Klein. I'm not endorsed or paid anything from this company, but I do like their tools. Now let's get over here and let's test it. Enough with the yak, jabber, right? Okay, I'm gonna try to get that meter where you can see it. We're gonna go to the top right hand side first. 117, that's good. Come back over here. Yeah, let's see what we got here. 116, 117, that looks pretty good. Hey, got good voltage there. We're doing something right. Last one. There it is. Well, guys, that pretty much concludes this video. I really want to thank you for stopping in and listening to me gerbil on about all this crap. And I hope that what I did do today will help you in some form or fashion. I'm not the smartest kid on the block or the brightest light in the house, but I get a few things done.